Yes! What is up, everyone? Emergency podcast time. A new roster is dropped for the September games. Me and Chuck are going to get after it. So hit like and subscribe, and let's do the business. Hi, hello, and welcome to your favorite Average to Good podcast. Call it what you want. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies, and it's emergency podcast time, Chuck, because U.S. Soccer has just dropped the roster for these two upcoming friendlies in September, even though we don't have Mauricio Pochettino as a coach yet, Chuck. But Mikey Varas, our U20 coach, is stepping in, and apparently, according to U.S. Soccer, he was always going to be the one that was managing these games before a new coaching staff comes in. We got 24 names to get into. Are you ready for this, Chuck?
I think so.
Okay, I like that energy. All right, let's get into the 24 names. There are going to be some surprises for everybody. We'll get into the omissions in a second, but let's get to the names first, and then we'll go line by line and get after it. So in goal, we're bringing 4 goalkeepers. We got Ethan Horvath, Diego Cochin, our 18-year-old goalkeeper, plays at Barcelona B, Patrick Schulte from the Crew, Matt Turner, who made the move to Crystal Palace on the last day of the transfer window. In defense, we got Austin Trusty, just made the move to Celtic, Marlon Fossey, getting his first call up to the full team, Standard Liège in Belgium. Christopher Lund from Palermo, Mark McKenzie. We have Tim Ream, who made the move to Charlotte MLS, Chris Richards, Joe Scally, and Caleb Wiley, who's getting some valuable minutes for Strasbourg in France. In midfield, we got Johnny Cardoso, Luca De La Torre, Aiden Morris, Yunus Musa, Gio Reyna, and Malik Tillman. And then up top, we've got Brendan Aronson, who has been having a renaissance with Leeds, Flo Balogun, Ricardo Pepi, Christian Pulisic, Josh Sargent, and Haji Wright. So those are the 24 names. Chuck, you want to talk about omissions? Because there's some pretty significant ones.
Yes, let's talk about those omissions, please.
Okay, Weston McKennie. He is not in the team, and apparently we're being told that he only started full training in the 3rd week of August, so he's still in quote-unquote preseason mode. So they want him to stay at Juventus and focus on getting fully fit for their season and for the October international window.
Before you go any further, what mode is Gio Reyna in?
He feels like he's always in preseason mode. I know.
I'm just asking a question. Okay.
Okay. No. I'm triggered. I'm triggered because it already seems like they're making rules and setting a precedent not being followed by every single player. But apparently it's a case-by-case situation. Look at De La Torre. Can't even get into the 18 for Celta Vigo, but he's here. He's in the team. So make that make sense, Chuck. I just want to know that. Jedi Robinson, not in the team. He's been playing for a full year, had 2 off-season surgeries. This is a chance to give him a break and be fully ready to go for the October international window, where when hopefully Mauricio Pochettino shows up and that coaching staff. You want to impress those guys when they're around, and they're clearly not around in this particular moment. We're getting word that De La Torre has been injured. But either way, the coach has mentioned they didn't really want him in the team. That's what I remember hearing. A. Ivis could tell us, producer A. Ivis. Listen.
But he is injured.
Okay. But he didn't seem like, or for what I heard, he wasn't in the plans for Celta Vigo.
Right.
And if that's the case, why didn't he make a move in the window? Probably because he's hurt. So he really got kind of caught. So anyway, Luca De La Torre said, Cameron Carter-Vickers, not in the team. Here's another one that's going to trigger you, Chuck. He's been dealing with a toe injury. And apparently this is a chance to let it heal properly. But he just played this morning.
Not only just played, the Old Firm derby.
I get it. I know, against Rangers.
If you play in the Old Firm derby, you cannot tell me that you're resting or your toe's injured. This is Celtic versus Rangers. This is one of the biggest rivalries in world football. So
you know what I don't get, Chuck? You know what I don't get? Is that Cameron Carter-Vickers did not have a good summer. He needed to come in and demonstrate that he could be a guy. He could be the guy. And this was a big opportunity. And now he's giving that opportunity to some others. Austin Trusty, Mark McKenzie could potentially get minutes and then be like, I'm going to own this now. And then Cameron Carter-Vickers is going to get squeezed. Now, I know that CCV is one of the few outside of Gaga Slonina, who's also not in this camp. But that's because I think League One is still, they don't recognize the transfer or the FIFA window, so they just keep playing through it. So that makes sense. But CCV is the only one that has he got evaluated. He got coached by Pochettino when he was at Spurs. So like he's got a relationship. Nobody else has that. I don't know. I guess Pochettino's not here. So
all right,
go ahead.
Time out.
Go ahead.
In our YouTube chat, I have to give a shout out to Ron because I think he may be onto something, and I hope he's not. But because Manchester United are absolutely dreadful, maybe Manchester United have reached out to Pochettino this time for real to say, hey, are you really interested in this?
No.
And maybe that's why nothing is signed yet.
Do you think now that would really screw us, by the way? All of a sudden we get at the last minute, Man United comes in and completely blows up our deal with Pochettino. Come on, why are we even putting that in the universe? Who's this Ron guy? He should be banned from our chat for a little while. I don't want that. I don't want those vibes in the universe, Ron.
Kelly, I'm sorry, Kelly Broderick. I had to bring it up. When I saw that, I just thought, oh boy. Now the Hervé Renard is popping up in the chat.
Oh, here we go. That's gonna get you triggered. That's gonna get you triggered.
Oh my God. Talk about triggering me, honestly.
Okay, so CCV, not a part of this camp. Tanner Tessman, similar situation apparently as to Weston in terms of no real preseason coming off the Olympics. He's with a new club, making the move from Venezia to Lyon. He came off the bench in his first game that he was available. So that was pretty cool to see that he's already being trusted. I don't think you roll somebody that just came to your team, Chuck, and put him into a game, even though it's the last couple minutes, if he wasn't relatively fit. Like if you thought he was still in preseason mode, you're not going to roll that guy out there. I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting decision. Tessman not in the team. And then we got a couple injuries with Timo Weah and Busio. So those are the notable admissions. I actually would throw, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman, two center backs. If you're no CCV or whatever, and you're bringing Tim Riemann, so it's not really like age is a factor as it pertains to Zimmerman in particular, who's only 31. Those guys were solid in the Olympics. And I thought, okay, well, maybe that's going to get them another look with the full team. And even though Miles was part of the Copa America group and didn't play, I don't know. So I just wanted to throw them into the admissions as well, because I think they should have been, maybe they've had contact. Maybe they're coming out of the Leagues Cup. They're entering into the stretch run. You don't want to impact that flow and rhythm that those teams are trying to establish heading into the stretch run of MLS. I don't know, but I just thought they should be in there as well. All right, you want to go line by line?
Wait, you thought Walker Zimmerman should be in there?
I just thought that I'm curious if he got contacted.
No, I would think not.
No.
So
Zimmerman, Miles Robinson. No,
are they done? I think Zimmerman's completely out of the picture. Miles, I think potentially can still be involved. But I want to bring up this comment from Colin Reese. I hope we don't get Pochettino. I hate coaches whose tactics are based on high pressing. It wastes the energy of the attacking and creative players. Pressuring the ball is enough defense. Now, what I would say to that, because that kind of triggers me a little bit, is how do you think Pep Guardiola's Barcelona side played? How do you think Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool side played? It is based on high pressing. That doesn't stifle creativity. It doesn't stifle attacking players. Look at those players that those teams had. Pressing is just recovering the ball closer to goal. It's the way that you press and how you press. Colin, I understand that maybe if you're thinking about the Red Bull philosophy and skipping, possession and having it be ugly, I get it. But when we're talking about quality players doing it, there's a big difference.
Yeah, one thing I would add to that too is you want your best attacking players to be as close to the goal as possible when they win it. Like if you sit back at a low block and you win the ball, you got 70 yards, baby, to figure it out. Now, if you got some runners and you want to counterattack, maybe there's some room there. But to do that all game, it just takes a lot of energy to do that. If you can win the ball 20, 30 yards away from your goal, your attacking players are going to be much happier because they're doing less running. And they're going to be in and around the goal, creating opportunities. So I understand where that's coming from. Mm-hmm. But I think that we're looking at this as a real estate play. You want to be as close to the opponent's goal as possible and not as consistently as possible. So I get the whole high pressing thing. I just don't. It feels very sophisticated, Pochettino, and how he likes to press. And I wonder if you can implement that as a national team if you're not around the guys on a day-to-day basis. All right, let's get into the line by line. We'll go and start with the goalkeepers. Chuck, I want to get your thoughts. Horvath, who didn't start off the season well. Nope. He had a bit of a howler for Cardiff to start, but seems to be settling in now. Diego Cochin, 18-year-old Barcelona B. Patrick Schulte, winning trophies for the Columbus Crew, because that's what the Crew do. Shout out to Wilfred Nancy once again. I don't know how long that guy's going to be in MLS coaching. And then Matt Turner comes in, even though his situation still feels perilous. He's not number one for anybody. And the reason I think, I'm just going to throw it out there, that we have 4 goalkeepers in this camp is that U.S. Soccer just hired Jack Robinson, who was coaching alongside Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool for the last 6 years. And he's now going to be head of goalkeeping for all of U.S. Soccer. So he'll be working with the goalkeepers this camp, and I think he'll just be overseeing all the goalkeepers for I don't know if he's doing the women's side as well, but definitely the men's. And a ton of experience. And why not bring in Diego Cochin just to be seen by him in particular? But how are you feeling about these goalkeeper selections?
I mean, that's where we are, unfortunately. So I don't think anyone's excluded from this list. When you're talking about the players that you can call in, I think we all knew Matt Turner was going to get called, knowing that he went from third string to second string, and he's behind Dean Henderson, who, is arguably pushing for the English goalkeeping spot, so in the national team. He's not going to play. He's not going to play he wasn't going to play either place, and he's still not going to play now. But I guess it's better to be in the backup and be on the bench just in case, rather than absolutely no matter what you do, you're never going to play. I'm really intrigued by Diego Cochin. He's at Barcelona. Obviously, he can play with the ball at his feet. I want to see what that looks like at this level. He's largely untested. He's playing, Barca B games. That's not one, top flight professional football, and 2, international football. So I guess we want to see just how far he is to challenging for the number 1 shirt. But again, if he's not at the level in training, then you put him out on the pitch. So I guess I'm just really intrigued by that one.
Yeah. Also, I think it's a way to say, hey, we see you. We think you have a ton of talent. Why don't you come in? We'll get a taste of what you're about. You get a taste of what we're trying to build, even though Mikey Varas is in charge and not Mauricio Pochettino. And Mikey Varas had a Q&A answering some questions. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show. I want to keep focusing on the roster here, but I think it does kind of explain their intents and how they're trying to approach this camp. And I think there are some hallmarks or some echoing of sentiments that Mauricio Pochettino would be saying similar things. So we'll get into that in a little bit. Let's go to defenders now. We got 8 in camp. Austin Trusty, Marlon Fossey, as I mentioned before, getting his first call up to the first team, played with our U20s on 8 different occasions. Christopher Loons at Palermo, big opportunity for him without Jedi Robinson in. Mark McKenzie with no CCV in his way, could potentially get the start. Got Tim Ream, our senior elder statesman, Chris Richards, Joe Scally, and Caleb Wiley. Against Canada, and I guess we have to look at this, and we have New Zealand as well, I think you could roll out 2 different back fours. I'm kind of curious as to which one we're going to roll out against a very highly motivated Jesse Marsh and a Canada team. We're going to have a special preview for that particular game, so don't you worry about that. We'll get into more of the specifics there. But what are you thinking about the defenders here, Chuck?
I'm not too thrilled with the defenders, to be honest. Austin Trusty got his move to Celtic. I think that's an incredible move for him. To move from the championship to Celtic. It's a massive club, so I'm happy for him, but he's obviously still has a long way to go if we're talking about the national team, and we all know that. Marlon Fossey, again, it doesn't really excite me or move the needle in terms of the national team if we're talking about defending. Christopher Loon, we've also seen him more still trying to grow out of the youth phase. To me, he still plays with a youthfulness, in terms of making a real impact at the international level. Mark McKenzie, again, I love the move to Toulouse. Massive opportunity. I think he's progressing, but in terms of national team level, I don't think he's quite there yet to contribute consistently. Tim Ream, that's just a veteran coming into the camp to help guys, still trying to, play his way into the plans and stay within the team. But, obviously he's on the outside looking in, I think, in terms of long-term, obviously future. He's but it's good to have in the camp. Chris Richards, yes. I mean, we know he's the future at center back, playing at Crystal Palace. And Joe Scally and Caleb Wiley, both to me, still have a ways to go. So all in all, if you we're talking about the goalkeepers and defenders, and I want to get your take on it, because obviously you're a center back and you are kind of part of the goalkeeper union in a way. I want to know what you think about the overall quality when you're talking about national team and Pochettino. Because if I'm looking at these names, Pochettino had zero to do with calling in players, zero to do with influence over this roster. Because if he did, everyone's going, no matter what. There's no excuses.
Yeah.
Right? You're trying to impress right away and show that how you fit into his system. That is not the case at all. So go ahead.
Well, I'll start from more of a personal angle before I kind of get in from the defensive perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I was a player that took advantage of opportunities like this. Eddie Pope was hurt in front of me. Gooch was hurt. Bocanegra wasn't available. Greg Berhalter was doing whatever. Whoever else got Corey Gibbs. Like, somebody was hurt for me to get a chance. And then as I got my opportunities, I kept going in there and chipping away that I can be somebody that Bruce Arena and the coaching staff trusted. And that ultimately earned me a spot on the World Cup team in 2006 over Greg Berhalter. He only got called back in once Corey Gibbs got hurt. And this is a huge opportunity for these guys to do the same thing and to attack it the same way. So on one hand, I'm actually very excited for these guys because they have a big chance to make that happen. On the other hand, I agree with you. This lacks a little bit of quality, lacks some experience. There's something about Fossey I like because Fossey used to be a winger, got converted now to an outside back for Standard Liège. The dude gets up and down. And if you were looking at potentially playing a back three and maybe looking at wing backs, why not? Why not? Let's throw him out there and see how he does. The Canada game's obviously going to be a much bigger, if you start him, going to be a much bigger challenge than New Zealand, with all due respect to the Kiwis. When you have Alphonso Davies, potentially, I'm not sure if he's getting called in or not, but if Alphonso Davies is on that side, you're going to have to manage and do a couple things at once. Not only are you going to have to look to, like,
you best
get
believe,
forward.
Jimmy, you best believe all the Canada players are coming in. Jesse wants to win this game.
Of course. No, he does.
I'll tell you that right now.
That's 100%. You're right. I should never have said otherwise.
Come on.
So it's a good opportunity, especially the Canada game, for guys to either continue to cement their status. I don't think Chris Richards has been blowing anybody's hair back. That's like the second consecutive show I've said that, to start the season with Palace. Now, I know they've made some changes to the back line, and the whole team hasn't really, and they've lost a couple key players. So they're still trying to, I think, find their new identity without some of the players that they had in the past. But it hasn't looked great. But if he comes in and kind of like, I'm the guy, I'm going to start taking over more accountability and leadership, especially without the void of Tyler Adams, who has got a huge presence. And I don't know what's happening with Tim Ream. Are we phasing him out? I mean, I do have concerns that we're calling a 36-year-old defender in. Is he 36 or is he older than that? I don't even know. But we're less than 2 years out, Chuck. And as much as this isn't even actually isolated, this isn't about Tim. This is more just about the situation. We have an older defender who's been great. And I know I took some shots at him for being old before, and he's completely proved me wrong, and fair play to you, Tim Ream. But now we're like 2 years. If we're not going to rely on this guy to be a part of the World Cup in 2026, then I feel like these minutes should go to somebody else. Now, maybe we're bringing him in to cover or whatever it is, but if we really want to see what Mark McKenzie's about or anybody else, I just feel like this is a good time to make that happen. Again, this is not personal to Tim Ream. It's just, if there was any defender out there that was 36 to 38 years old or whatever it is, and you're less than 2 years out of a World Cup, I think everybody would be clamoring for a younger option. Now, fair play to Tim. He's still one of our best to be out there.
But not
his quality,
Jimmy,
super
not
high.
even that. He left Europe to come to MLS. That's another thing that goes against Tim Ream. If he was still playing in the Prem, if he's playing in the Premier League, if he's playing in a top 5 European league and a top division, then you say, you know what? He's still got it. He's still playing at the highest level. He's still competing. But when you come back to MLS, that's it. It's done. But in this camp, I don't mind it because he brings a lot of the.
I don't mind it either. I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
in terms of having the conversation about what we're trying to do and how we're trying to move forward. Listen, his value is invaluable in some ways because of the things that he brings both on and off the field, and his calmness and composure on the ball in particular.
He's going to be more like a coach than Mikey Varas.
Yeah, in some ways, he's like a player coach for us. And I think there's a lot of value in that, especially as we're kind of transitioning in this interim phase for these next couple of games until hopefully Mauricio Pochettino shows up. Better stupid Manchester United not undermine us with that, because they are a disaster at the moment. So yeah, that's kind of how I see the the back line. Ultimately, on a positive side, I think it's a big opportunity for some players to break through and make a little bit of noise and potentially turn the head of the new coaching staff based on how they've performed. All right, we're going to take our first break of Call It What You Want. When we come back, we're going to talk about the midfielders. We're going to talk about the strikers, and we're going to talk about a whole much more, because that's what we do on your favorite Average Good podcast. Don't go anywhere.
At CBS Sports Galazzo Network, we're bringing you the game.
Madness of Messi arrives!
Breaking down the game.
This is unlike anything else in the world.
And changing the game.
Get it all for nil.
That means free.
Wow.
And all day long!
24/7.
Welcome back to Call It What You Want. You got Conradinho and Chuck Wagon with you today. No McBrizzle or Big Tones. They'll be joining us later this week to have our normal Monday show and do some previewing and reviewing of Canada and New Zealand and all that good stuff. And hopefully there's a press conference. We can have another emergency podcast, so we have a coach that we can officially announce and be excited about. But Chuck, let's get into our line-by-line breakdown. Let's get into the midfielders now. We got 6. Johnny Cardoso is in.
Love it.
Okay. Though he doesn't seem like he's first choice for Real Betis at the particular moment. We got Luca De La Torre, who I'm being told in our private chat here by Ivis, he's been hurt. Well, he's in. I thought if guys were in preseason mode and working their way back, I don't know. I'm getting mixed messaging here, but Luca De La Torre in camp. Aiden Morris, who's been fantastic for Middlesbrough. Let's just call it what it is. He's been very good. Fish to water at this at the championship level, in particular, playing for Michael Carrick. And it's funny, they got their asses beat by Stoke 5-0 in the League Cup, Chuck. And I ended up seeing the highlights, but I didn't watch the game live. Aiden Morris didn't start that game, and when he came on, they didn't score any goals after that. But when he wasn't on the field, they scored 5. Just another shout out to Aiden Morris. Yunus Musa is in the team, who started 2 games ago and came on with 20 minutes ago. Can we say when Milan's 2-2 draw with Lazio? Now, when he came on for Milan against Lazio this past weekend, Lazio were up 2-1, and he comes on with Tammy Abraham and Rafael Leao and Teo Hernandez, and then Yunus Musa is part of it. I mean, that's a crew. If you're going to walk onto the field with some ballers, that's the crew. You're like swag, like we're getting after it. And they did. They scored a goal not too long after that to make it 2-2. So Yunus still being trusted, obviously, by Paulo Fonseca. Milan, kind of Manchester United-esque, right, Chuck? A bit of a dumpster fire. Gio Reyna's in the team, got 9 whole minutes of playing time this season. Malik Tillman is in as well. I'd honestly start Malik Tillman. We can get into that a little bit later. Thoughts on midfielders?
I mean, so this is the strongest part of our national team. They have the most depth in midfield, and obviously there are a number of players who aren't even called in. But in terms of the players who are in right now, I mean, Brendan Aronson has absolutely earned.
I didn't name him. He's in the forwards, but go ahead.
All right. Well,
he's playing 10 for the leads, but keep going.
I think Cardoso, Yunus Musa, and Tillman have earned their way into the team. You could argue Aiden Morris because he's over in Middlesbrough, but the most depth is in midfield for us, and that's considering a large portion of guys that aren't even there, right? So, this will be a good group to see if they can control the tempo and win the second balls and kind of be responsible for organizing the team when we're talking about beating Canada.
I'm curious. I don't even know the last time we didn't have Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie in the team. Maybe it was in the World Cup qualifying. Was Tyler hurt for that? I don't know. Tyler always hurt, but I don't know. I guess we'll ask Ivis to look that up for us. We have let's go to forwards though really quick, and I think we can kind of bunch these two together as we start to look ahead in terms of combinations that we'd like to see. You got Brendan Aronson, as you mentioned, who's been having a renaissance at Leeds, which has been very cool to see the redemption arc after kind of jumping ship. Do
you really consider him a forward though?
No. Well, he's more of a winger. So winger slash, like, I mean, Leeds has got him. Daniel Farke's got him playing kind of a number 10 or a second striker underneath.
Yeah.
Guys they have up top, which has been working, and he's been finding good pockets. So I'm excited to see how he's been playing. You got Flo Balogun started this week for Monaco, and he came off, didn't do much. Brio Embolo came on, and then Monaco ended up scoring after that to win that game. Ricardo Pepi in the team, Christian Pulisic, Josh Sargent, and Josh and Haji Wright actually played against each other. this weekend. Neither one of them scored, but Josh Sargent and Haji Wright rounded out. How are you feeling about the forwards as our resident number 9?
Who I expected to get called in. Josh Sargent and Haji Wright have been playing extremely well in the championship. So, it'd be interesting to see what that dynamic is. Who plays it? Ricardo Pepi came in for Luke de Jong as a first half substitute after Luke de Jong had 2 assists. So maybe he'll have a run of games. I don't know what the injury is to Luke de Jong, but maybe this is Ricardo's time to get some minutes and some playing time.
Yeah. I think it's there were really no omissions there that I thought, why isn't that dude in? So it's pretty good. Some other fun facts about this roster overall. There 18 players on this 24-man roster were part of this summer's Copa America. You have 13 players that are under the age of or 23 and younger. And the average age of this squad is 24 years and 175 days. And the squad also has an average of 20 caps. Yeah, I'm just digging out the stats. Ivan says here, last time no Adams or McKinney for the U.S. men's national team was the Trinidad and Tobago loss in Nations League on November 20th, 2023. So there you go. Lots of information there. With regard to surprise inclusions, is there anybody that's a big surprise for you on this one?
I mean, Marlon Fossey, Diego Cochin. I mean, those are 2 names that jump out to me because, we haven't really seen them in a U.S. men's national team kit. They haven't even been really close to being called in. So I'd say those 2 in particular.
Yeah. I'm a bit surprised Luca De La Torre's in.
Yeah, Aiden Morris. He hasn't really shown to be at this level, the U.S. men's national team level, to be one of those players who can fit in. But why not give it a
hey, rewarding the guy, right? He's playing.
Yeah.
So also Diego Cochin, I should fill in the blanks here. He's eligible to play for Peru and Spain. So yeah, let's give him a nice big group hug and make him feel welcome, because I think he could be in the conversation for one of our goalkeepers for the future. Okay, so I teased a little Mikey Varas Q&A before, and we have some quotes from him, and one of the quotes that I thought was interesting was on the competition. So he got asked on the competition for playing time that he expects in camp. And he mentioned it a little bit earlier. It's a bigger quote, so I'm going to go to the shorter one. But he says, this is Mikey Varas, who's going to coach both of these games. I'll reiterate that the long-term vision is to make sure that this is a really competitive training environment during this camp. All the boys know that there will be no starting lineup sets. What they do in training is going to matter. The guys who are performing in training and earn it are going to get the starting positions.
Hey, Mikey Varas, this isn't a club team. This isn't club football.
But isn't that, it kind of feels like that's how Mauricio Pochettino would manage. And so I wonder if he's getting that. I don't know. But you're right. I mean, but also Pochettino is only coming from a club environment. I get what you're saying. You and I have been in multiple camps where you show up.
How many have you come? And training doesn't mean a damn thing.
No, it doesn't. Because it can't. Guys are flying from all over the place, and you can't have like this gut-busting, kick-ass 100-mile-an-hour training if you actually want to be competitive when the whistle blows in the real game. You just can't do it.
But I will add this: the way I got my opportunity against Egypt in the Confederations Cup, things weren't going well. We lost to Italy. We lost to Brazil 3-1, 2-0. Bob Bradley's looking at this last game against Egypt in the Confeds Cup, and just, we want to go out with a win. We want to go out with a good performance. And so he had a training session for all the players who basically hadn't played. And he kind of prefaced it with whoever shows it and performs it will end up getting the minutes, not necessarily starting, but playing. And so I always think back to, I had one of the best trainings of my life. I was unplayable in this training session. And ultimately, there was only 2 changes in the starting 11. It was Brad Guzan who went in for Tim Howard, and that was just we're going to give Brad Guzan a game because we're probably not going to go through. And I went in to play with Josie. Those were the only 2 changes, and it's because I earned it in that training session. So there are instances where, yes, whoever plays well, whoever shows it and is committed and fighting and wants it, you will be given that opportunity to go.
Yeah.
But that's not the entire team.
Right.
You know, like a coach has his philosophy, he has his players, and there might be 2 or 3 that could change based on form, based on, rhythm, based on how they train. But the majority of the team, it's set based on how you did before you got called to that camp. And the plan for the coach was already out there and laid in who was going, unless you were absolute disaster and couldn't connect the pass in basic training, then the coach might think, Yeah,
right. No, I think you're right. I the lead into the camp is important. Let's just use attackers because they have easy metrics. Are they scoring? Are they contributing to goals, getting assists? How are they in the build-up play? Like, you have all that right there, and it turns into something tangible and meaningful that helps their respective teams get results. So if you know that they're playing well coming into the camp, then obviously you're already as a coach thinking, okay, I have an idea of who's going to come. And then, maybe there's some fine margins at this particular training. And honestly, it might not even come down to something like some athletic, 5v5 guys going 100 miles an hour. It could just be, hey, how are you looking in a finishing drill? How clean are you in that finishing drill? How is your confidence? Are you taking, tough balls and like bringing it down or hitting it first time? And they're going, like, you're probably going to roll with that guy. I mean, you and I have been it, and you've probably had it yourself where you just see some dude and they're like, God damn it, that guy's really good right now. And to use your word, you're unplayable. I remember going into a camp where Eddie Johnson was unplayable. He had just got back from Manchester United. He was training with Louis Saha. Louis Saha was at United and was giving him all these tips. He was over there for a couple weeks. That dude came into January camp in 2005, and I was like, I can't defend him. If I get tight, he just rolls me and looks for the ball in behind. If I stay off of him, he just gets it, turns, and then runs at me, and his confidence is so high, I can't slow him down. If anything we could do as a team was just like starve the service into Eddie Johnson. But he had an answer for every solution. And then sadly, that's when he hurt his toe. And then there's a lot to unpack with that particular story. But he ended up hurting his toe not too long after that, and his confidence went a little bit with that. And then it was hit or miss for a while. And I got to play with Eddie for a long time. And what a talent. But when he was on, he was unplayable. Absolutely unplayable. So when you're around it and you can see it, it doesn't necessarily have to be like an 11v11 or a 5v5. It can be simply like a goal, like just taking shots, the quality of your crosses, you can just see and feel the confidence. So I'm curious as to how that's going to happen. But I loved your initial reaction. Like, Mikey, this isn't a club team, So I'm going back to another quote that he said, because he had a message to players.
I was going to say, he's going to have a rough start if he's coming in going, guys, listen up. This is going to be an absolute battle royale. The only way you're playing is if you give me your all. Christian, you're not working hard enough. You're out. Yeah. Okay. That's going to go over real well.
Yeah, no, exactly right. So I'm going to read this quote. It was the longer one. I was going to save it, but I think it continues to add to what we're saying in this part of the conversation. He said, I spoke with every single player, which was great. There's a lot of enthusiasm to come into the September camp. Basically, what we talked about were 3 different visions for this upcoming opportunity. The long-term vision is we've got to move the program forward, and we're approaching that in 2 ways. The first is that we're going to make it a really competitive training environment. I can't see you right now, Chuck, but I know you're rolling your eyes. Everybody knows that training matters and that they're going to have to come in and earn their spot for the game. The second thing is we're going to play our way, aggressive in the press and brave with the ball. Ultimately, what we want to do is set up these players for success to make sure that they have an easy transition with a new coach coming in. And last but not least, is we have to get back on the field and show who we are. It's on us to get the fan base re-energized and the program re-energized by putting together 2 winning performances. Thoughts, Chuck?
My thoughts is, where was that with this U20 World Cup team? that would be my first. My first thought.
Oh, Chuck coming in hot.
Hey, I'm just being
Do it
real.
with U20s, guy. Like, Do your job.
You know,
Ow.
before you get on your high horse, let's think about that U20 World Cup first.
Oh man.
And then I would say, how is that any different than what Greg was trying to do, or what Greg would say? It's you're not doing anything. You're not reinventing the wheel, Mikey Varas. Like, just put the players who are in the best form, who are performing for their clubs and who look pretty good in training, have an idea of what the best team is and what formation you want to play, if you want to make those changes, and then go with it. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's pretty simple. These guys are all have to respect you because you're the national team coach and you're making the decisions. And guess what? You decide who plays, and they have to just honor that. It's that simple.
Do you don't think Pochettino had any involvement with this roster? You don't think? Zero?
I would absolute zero. I'd say zero.
I mean, if I was, let's say you're Pochettino, if you were like really considering the job, if you were taking the job and you knew you were just kind of now working through the red tape of whatever the Chelsea stuff that's holding things up and blah, 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 blah. I assume you're doing your homework on the player pool. And now you're starting to like, hey, these are going to be my guys. And let me get to know my guys. Also, I know that the U20 coach is coming in. He's going to have his staff that he's bringing in. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you just want to start.
Well,
clean.
no. Jimmy, so you're going to say, oh, Anthony Robinson, you can stay at Fulham and rest because you've earned the rest. But, oh, no, the other guys haven't earned the rest. You have to come in. But everyone comes in, or you are going to just pick and choose who you think should come into a national team camp, because what if let's say, for instance, Anthony Robinson needs rest. Why doesn't Christian Pulisic need rest?
Right.
And
I get it.
And the reason why I know this is U.S. soccer making the decisions, or at least why I feel that U.S. soccer is making these decisions, is because they're using this player has a new coach and he's got to break into the team first, and we don't want to Tanner Tessman, he's at Lyon still in preseason mode. He came in for Lyon this past weekend as a substitute in his first appearance, but we don't want to disturb that relationship. We need him to settle in. The same thing with Cameron Carter-Vickers. Like, he played for Pochettino. You're telling me he's going to say all of a sudden, no, stay. He's recovering from a toe injury, but he starts and plays in the Old Firm Derby against Rangers? No, that's, and then Weston McKennie, same thing. He just came in now. They're playing Roma, and he came in for Locatelli in the second half. So these players are coming in if Pochettino is making these decisions.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
So I think this is more of a, okay, who do we think deserves a shot? Who do you think will benefit more by staying with their club and not disrupting, their training methods and having them fly over and then come back and maybe be tired, and if they don't perform, then they're changed, right? Or pushing for more minutes. So we want to have them stay in that environment so they get to know the coach better and in their training so they can earn those minutes. Because I'll tell you one thing, European coaches do hold it against you. When you fly over internationally, you come back and you're flying, a good amount of hours, different time zones. You come back, you're fatigued, and maybe you miss a training or two trainings that you probably could have if you were playing in Europe. And then on top of that, you don't play well on the weekend. Guess who's the first one to be switched? It's the American players. It's the next guy's turn.
Right.
So that's why I feel that Pochettino was not at all involved in these decisions. No,
that makes a lot of sense. Just to let everybody know how Mikey Varas did at the U20 World Cup. We did win our group. We won 3 out of 3 games. We ended up losing the quarterfinals to the eventual champions, Uruguay. Now we played Ecuador first. Just to remind everybody, Chuck, 'cause I think it's important, give some context. We played Ecuador first in the tournament. We scored in the 93rd minute. Jonathan Gomez scored to win and beat Ecuador 1-0. Then it took us until the second half to score 3 against Fiji in our second game. Diego Luna, Cade Cal, and Caleb Wiley all scored in that one. And then we played Slovakia last. Cade Cal scored in the first half. Nico Chakiris scored in the 96th minute to make that 2-0. We draw New Zealand, and we beat them 4-0. So one of our more comprehensive performances. Owen Wolf, Cade Cal, Justin Che, and Ruskas Pukstas all score in that one. And then we lose to Uruguay 2-0, who end up going on to win it all. So 4 straight wins, but
it's the way
how we played against Uruguay, right? It was the way we played
Yes.
against Uruguay that still disappoints me. I agree with you on that.
Yes, and that's who is like, oh, we did super well, we won the group, and we won. And
Yeah.
what? Why is he acting like we crashed out? No, it's how you managed in those big moments. That's the sign for me. It's like, did you talk? You're preaching fearless, aggressive, and did you see that? Because I didn't. I saw predictable route 101. So that's my point, Ivis. I'm not bringing it up just to bring it up.
Ivis is triggered. Ivis basically just joined the chat and it's triggered Chuck. I got plenty of time for that. All right, we are going to take our last break of Call It What You Want. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about some of our players and their minutes. Does playing valuable minutes with your club actually matter all the time? We'll see if Chuck gets re-triggered in our last segment. Don't go anywhere.
Yep, they're wrapping up the summer. And now we're looking forward to kicking it with superstars. Now that's CBS Sports Sunday. We'll see you on September 8th.
Welcome back to Call It What You Want. Emergency podcast time. The roster has dropped for the September friendlies. We're playing Canada. We're playing New Zealand. We'll have previews and reviews, live reviews right after those games end. So make sure you hit your notifications, hit like and subscribe, do all the fun stuff that everybody else asks you to do when you're watching their respective YouTube channels. We want the same type of love and adoration. We're playing Canada on September 7th. We got New Zealand on September 10th. And then fast forward to the October friendlies, where hopefully Mr. Mauricio Pochettino is in charge. We got Panama at home, and then we go to Mexico to go finally play a game against Mexico in Mexico instead of always doing it here in the U.S. So that should be a nice test.
I like that.
I do too. All right, so let's talk a little bit about minutes. The big topic here, I guess, to finish up the show. We saw that some guys aren't getting minutes, trying to work back into, peak form. Tanner Tessman and Weston McKennie are two names that we named. They're still getting into their team's games, as you mentioned, with Weston getting in for Juve against Roma. Gio Reyna's didn't play this past weekend, didn't get off the bench. He's played 9 minutes all season with Dortmund. 9 minutes, and that includes cup games. Luca De La Torre hasn't featured at all for Celta. We know that he's been injured, but from what I remember, the coach has kind of made it somewhat clear that he's not in the plans. But we still call these guys in. And should we stop doing that? And do you expect Mauricio Pochettino to have that type of precedent? Or are some people untouchable? That's my question for you, Chuck.
I think you need to be playing for the national team, or need to be playing for your club team to get called into the national team, and you need to be playing well. I think for some of these guys in this camp, which is why I think Mauricio Pochettino had zero to do with this roster, is because they're using it to get guys going. So, for instance, Gio Reyna, who's not playing at all. I mean, he's played 9 minutes, but let's be real. He didn't get subbed in this past game, and they're not counting on him to change games, right? He's not one of the top, let's say, 5 midfielders right now for Dortmund being used to come in and win games. Mm-hmm. So for me, they're using this camp to give him playing time, to try and get his confidence up so hopefully maybe he goes back and he's not, necessarily losing his touch or his sharpness, because he's playing and he's getting minutes and they're pushing him. Whereas, you look at some guys who, Brandon Aronson, who's earned the right to play with his performances. Josh Sargent has earned the right to get called in. Haji Wright has earned the right. These guys are playing and playing well, making a difference. So, and a player like Diego Cochin, I don't think he's getting called in to the first team. To me, that still screams Olympic team. You're not, if you're not playing first team football, you're not getting called to the national team.
Right.
It's that simple. How can you get called into the full team national team when you're not playing first team football? That boggles my mind. But yet, that's where we're at right now in the goalkeeper position, that it's like player not playing well, third division. So why not call in 4 keepers at this point? Because there's not one that you're saying, hey, we can rest assured this is going to be our number one, because Matt Turner's not going to play this whole season. As long as Dean Henderson's healthy, he's not playing. And Horvath, we know what Horvath is. So unfortunately, I think at the moment, this is a camp where they're giving an opportunity just to see where guys are, and maybe in the potentially in the future they'll call him in, and ideally Pochettino comes in and says, "Hey, you don't play, you're not getting called in." Barring, let's say Christian Pulisic gets injured and he's trying to work his way back, but it's Christian Pulisic is proven both internationally and at the club level, so you have those type of guys. But for the most part, it's across the board. You play, you get in, and you play well. If you don't play, forget it.
Yeah. I think what's interesting is that you say you bring these guys in to light a fire under them. But I also think the message of, hey, if you're not playing for your club team, we can't call you in, should also light a fire under these guys. So I could see this working both ways, but that would be a hell of a precedent to start. And so I guess my question to you is, using this, there's two areas of the field that I want to discuss. The goalkeeper spot, given what you're saying, and given the goalkeepers that we brought in, Horvath didn't start the season well. Matt Turner's not playing. Diego Cochin plays for Barcelona B. And you have Patrick Schulte playing for the Crew and winning trophies. And then I actually want to talk about the attackers at some point, because now we got a lot of guys that are playing well. Now it's like, which one do you want to go with? Which collection of guys do you want to go with? But for goalkeeper, who I don't even know, like, what kind of messaging do you set if Matt Turner gets rolled out there? I don't know. It almost feels hopeless if you're the other guy. You're like, Jesus, it doesn't matter if this guy never plays the rest of his life. We're still never going to get a shot at this.
All right, here's a number of scenarios. Okay, so Mikey Varas calls in the keepers. So Patrick Schulte, Olympic keeper, played over Gago Sonina, which I think that's probably what they went to, is Gago Sonina or Schulte, and they said, Schulte's more further ahead of Gago Sonina at the moment. But he's still prone to making mistakes, right? So this isn't someone that you say, oh, certified number one at the full team level. Not yet. He's not there. Horvath, he's a certified backup at this stage of his career, and I think he's happy with that. So, does it make sense to play him now? No. So I would look at it as it's either Matt Turner starting, or Diego Cochin comes in and plays so damn well. And Mikey Varas talks about this competing and you earn your spot, and he plays so well and impresses that they say, you know what? We have nothing to lose. We're going to roll out Diego Cochin out because he's impressed, and this is the goalkeeper for the future. And so I think those are the scenarios. Either Matt Turner starts or Diego Cochin starts.
But Horvath, outside of one game, I mean, he's starting. So he's getting minutes for Cardiff.
Well, we know his maximum level.
Okay, that's true. That's fair. Now
he's plateaued.
Okay, so you give Matt Turner the Canada game. Okay, but then I think you could give the New Zealand game to Cochin. Yes. I would just give it to Cochin at this point, or Schulte. But 4 goalkeepers is a lot. I'm curious to see what ends up happening there. All right. Obviously, it's a hot topic. Getting some good comments in the chat. Keep those coming, because now we're going to pivot over to the forwards, where we have some guys that are playing well, or say the front three. You have a Brendan Aronson who could fit into those positions. You have Josh Sargent. You have Haji Wright. You have Christian Pulisic.
Wait, can I just? I got triggered a little bit, so I gotta jump in here.
Yeah, okay, let's do it. Here we go, everybody. Fasten your seatbelts.
All right. So Ron again says, how does Wilfred Nazi get so much praise, but the players don't get the same? ? Nazi can't execute his system without those players. Morris and Schulte are solid players who have played well. Ron, let me remind you something. Morris left, and you could argue that the Columbus Crew are better. Lucas Zelarayan, who is MVP caliber, left mid-season, and Columbus MLS Cup. So it's not tied to players. He's losing some of his best players and pushing the limits of what his team can do. So that's why Wilfred Nazi gets all the credit. Now, don't forget, or a lot of credit, not even all the credit. Don't forget he has Cucho Hernandez and Diego Rossi, who we have countlessly talked about how great they are and what they do. But you have a player like Max Offson, who was largely unheard of. And next thing you know, he looks like an all-star winger in Major League Soccer. Christian Ramirez, who was painted as a number 9 who can't do anything, is all of a sudden being a number 10 creative playmaker and bringing the ball down and connecting and scoring goals and opening the attacking third. So that is why Wilfred Nancy gets so much credit, because he coaches players up. I'm done.
Well, you know what? I want to give a shout out to Ron. I think he triggered you twice in one show. Never been done before. You've made history here. Call it what you want. Shout out to Ron in the in the comments. What a beast. All right, let's talk about the forwards, though. We have options. And I'm kind of curious, and if you throw Malik Tillman in there as well, who could sit underneath, he could play a little bit wider if you want. We have a pretty formidable, front three, front four. Right now, based on what you've seen and based on how players are performing, what is your front three and who's your number 10?
Oof.
That's what I want to get into. With everybody listening, hit us up at Golazo America on all the social media channels. Hit us up in the chat right now. Just right now. Obviously, things are going to change because there's going to be a highly competitive training environment. We don't know who's going to show up in that one, in those trainings. But as of right now. Right now.
I'm playing Christian Pulisic as the 10.
Underneath.
I'm playing him as a 10.
Okay. I didn't see that coming. That was not on my bingo card.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going Haji Wright in the left wing position. I'm going Josh Sargent at the 9 position. And on the right wing, I'm going to go Brendan Aronson right now.
Brendan Aronson on the right. Mm-hmm. You could, though, in theory, go Brendan underneath and put Pulisic on the right.
Yeah, but the whole thing is it's constant changing. It's moving around. You're not glued. Haji Wright can play at the 9. Josh Sargent can come out wide. That Balogun's not in good form right now.
No,
he's not playing. Balogun is definitely not playing right now. Okay, he's not in good form and he's not playing enough. And then you throw in Ricardo Pepi not playing. So there you go. That takes out those two right off the bat. Brent Aronson is playing and he's playing well. Josh Sargent is playing, he's playing well. Haji Wright is playing, he's playing well. Now you could throw in, it's the championship versus the Dutch Eredivisie and Liga. But at the same time, it's not that big of a jump. It's not they're playing for Real Madrid or Barcelona. So for me, that and the same thing, Gio Reyna's not playing. How can you say he could start in this type of in this game? What kind of
you can't. You can't start him. No, you can't start him. No, you can't.
So for me, those guys should not be starting, and it's also a sign you got to get going. You got to play. Nothing's handed out, nothing's given. So that's why I'm going.
Okay. So when I talk about a number 10, it bleeds into midfield a little bit. Malik Tillman's been good. He started the season off well with PSV. Is there room for him in the midfield?
He hasn't been good with the He hasn't been good with the U.S. He hasn't been good with the U.S. men's national team. He's played really slow. He's really lacked the creativity needed because he doesn't have the pace. He doesn't have necessarily that type of quickness or athleticism that you would expect from that number 10 position if you're dynamic, because he hasn't showed it with the U.S. men's national team. Now he might show it in the Eredivisie. He might have showed it a little bit in Scotland, but in terms of playing at the international level, Tillman has not done it yet. And so therefore, for me, he wouldn't get the start.
Yeah, what's interesting is I could see him not starting against Canada. Then you roll out some other guys against New Zealand. Again, with all due respect to New Zealand, there's a little bit more animosity and emotion attached to this Canada game in particular. Thanks to our old co-host, Jesse Marsh. But New Zealand, I don't think will be as difficult of an opponent. They'll be tough to break down, of course. But then you'll see Tillman go there and maybe he shines in that game. And there's always that asterisk of, but it's New Zealand, and so you want him to do it when it matters. And he's had some chances, to your point, and he hasn't taken the most of those chances. So if you have Pulisic as your 10, or if you even want to swap and have Aronson as your 10, or one of those guys that's playing well, then we have to, I was going to end the show there, but we got to talk about the midfield. Would you then go with what, Yunus Musa and Johnny Cardoso as your kind of your 8 and your 6 at that point?
In the midfield, I'm going to go with easily Johnny Cardoso and Yunus Musa. Easily.
Okay.
It's not even a question.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I just wanted to make sure I'm on the same page with you on that. That's actually I don't mind that. You got Cardoso sitting.
Okay. You feel
Yunus
it.
Musa. Yeah, Yunus Musa gonna do his thing, getting up and down. He's a good number 8. Then you have a proper 10 or somebody who's playing in that 10 spot who's attack-minded first and good at pressuring the ball. I think whoever's going to be on that right side, got to keep an eye on Alphonso Davies a little bit. So there's going to have to be some communication with your outside back, your wing back.
I also want to throw in that Brandon Aronson has already done it versus Canada in a World Cup qualifier. He has already shown
That's true.
The ability to do it. And to Kai 718, it's been a while since I've seen you in the chat, so I'm happy you're here and chiming in. Tillman most definitely has the potential to be more effective and better than Brandon Aronson. But what I've seen from at the international level, he's lacked the quickness of mind, quickness of thought, along with quickness in terms of his play. He's looked very casual. You just haven't seen the intensity or the quality at the international level. Now, we've seen it in spurts at the club level, but what I'm saying is for the international team, the international level, for the U.S. men's national team, he has yet to do it. So in that case, I would rather go with Brandon Aronson, who's cooking right now. He's feeling it. Cooking. Yes, it's the championship, but my man is cooking, and he's done it. So with the U.S. at various times in World Cup qualifying. So give him a run out. Let's see where he's at.
I mean, that's if that's the precedent and that's the messaging and the narrative that you're building as a coach, whether that's Mikey Varas or whether that's going to be Mauricio Pochettino, and how you perform with your club matters, then you gotta roll out Brandon Aronson at this point. It's a no-brainer given how he's been performing. Now I see some shouts for Luca Koleosho, the Burnley player who can play for the U.S. Why can't we bring him in? He'd be an automatic starter for us. Just to catch up everybody, he's playing for Italy's youth national teams and has been. He's made his choice or his preference known that that's where he wants to play. He's not tied to Italy, but he'd have to accept a call and from us, and there's no signs yet that that's something he's interested in. So we'll see. We had to hunt down Flo Balogun for quite some time to win him over. Maybe some of our players in the player pool can help make that happen because I think he'd be a great get, but we'll have to kind of wait to see. But Koleosho right now is with Italy's U21s in this particular window. All right, final thoughts, Chuck, because we got another show tomorrow, which I'm excited about. We're gonna break down all the like we normally do on Mondays, kind of a review and circle back with our thoughts.
Get into the weeds.
Get into the weeds. But yeah, any final thoughts on this roster, Chuck Davies?
My final thoughts on they are who we thought they were. My thought is show that T-shirt. Yeah, show that shirt.
In the form of his life, who's a real OG, dribble for nothing. If you're an OG of the podcast, you know what this quote means on my shirt.
If you are an OG of this podcast, then you know exactly where that quote came from. And that's how I'm feeling.
All right. I respect it. I got nothing else. I feel like I've exhausted all of my thoughts on this roster for now. Obviously, I'll probably have some more when I sit with it for a full day. But again, we have another podcast dropping tomorrow. Come back and join us for that. We appreciate your support as always. We love the comments and community that we're building here with Call It What You Want.
This sweatshirt's for you
and
guys.
Long may that continue. Yeah, Chuck not only has an incredible sweater on for people who can't watch, but he's also got a watch that matches. And he's got an elliptical trainer behind him too. Chuck is just a renaissance man. He can do it all at all times. All right, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
I was just on the beach.
Enjoy your Labor Day. We'll see you tomorrow. Big week for us. Big week for U.S. soccer, the U.S. men's national team. 2 big games.
Joel Jimenez, what's up, OG?
We'll see you guys. Peace out. Later.
Peace out, guys.